Okay, so studio sessions. I'll just go back over it. Everything you'll be doing inside Bluebeam, you can then put onto the cloud. But there's a couple of different things that you want to pick up when you're doing this, and it's really to do with how you want to set up your PDF. Because once it goes into the cloud, especially studio sessions, you create an environment that's quite locked down. So let's talk about setting up yourself for a studio session or a studio account. So you have to bear with me. I had to disconnect my mouse. I've only got so many ports I could use. So it might be a little bit clunkier. Okay, so just going to connect to the studio session here. So what you need to do initially is have an email account. Typically, you're going to be using your work account. So what I had created earlier was to get into create an optimistic Gmail account. And I'm going to create a password. Oh, that's right. I did this again. Create account. Bear with me. So if I put in here, Shanok, holiday, Shan, my email, password. Don't know about you, but too many passwords in my life. Okay, now just check my inbox. So come into here, go to wait a little bit. Okay, confirm my ID. Thank you, I'm all good to go. So now I can sign in. And we're now good to go. So anything can be stored in the two parts here. We have our studio projects and the studio sessions. So in studio projects, anything can go into this. So we can put regular PDFs, we can put PowerPoint, we can put Revit files, AutoCAD files, any type of file, movies, whatever you want. And we can share this around. So let's have a look inside this. So if I start a new project here, I can do a demo. Now this is currently sent to the AWS server, and then it's going to create that account, have a unique ID to this, and then come back to us, and then we can start to share this around with other clients or internally, whatever works for you. So even it's interesting, some clients will point out if you've got Office 365, you might be using SharePoint. Well, that's fantastic. You can access Bluebeam directly into the SharePoint, have a check-in and check-out process. Or you might want to put it up into projects and have another way of accessing it on site. Or it might just be with other clients who can't get into your SharePoint. But ultimately, we can just start to get all that information across. We can start bringing in new folders. And effectively just set it up like a Windows Explorer. So how many deep folders you want, you can upload entire folders or individual drawings. It's up to you. I can add from here. Just I want to add some files. I can add in a file. So if I go into my architectural files here, I might have just to make it nice and quick. I think that one's superseded, so I'll grab that one. Okay, or that could be a whole series of files, or as you may have seen, it could be files that already have open inside Bluebeam. I want to quickly push up into a project, and depending on the internet speed, hopefully I don't go too robotic while I'm doing this. And now this is accessible via the cloud. So currently we have a locked situation, so I can always check in and check out. So we can actually click on here. I can check this out. If I check it out properly, and I can create my lines in this or whatever type of markups that I want. And we can come back in here and we can check this back in. Not a very good markup I added there, I must admit. Probably as good as some of the markups I have received in the past, but that's a bit different story. So let's talk about security. So inside here, we can actually go into deeper into this. We can get into our studio. We've got our studio signed up here. We can go into our, I'll get into our project settings. So inside here, we have our unique ID. So if I had this open, you could actually at your end type in this number and you could access these drawings, or this one drawing here. But that's providing I had this is unrestricted. Now, as for adding other people to this, I can put them through as an individual email. So I can Shanok So now I've got access here to myself. So that will then send an email, which I, yes, have shut down, but that would come through. Or what's a handy way, I just want to point out, I've got no groups signed up to this, but I could set up some groups. And groups are well, obviously like, groups of people, or it might be document controllers, or they call them stakeholders when they do infrastructure setups. So therefore, if you've got these ongoing reviews, you can send to groups, and groups have different levels of permission. So let's have a look at this. So permissions. So whether you've got your regular attendees, can they send invitations to other people or not? Can they actually have full control or just sharing links? You can have your breakdown here. And as I said earlier, if I actually had my group set up, I could get a group, I can create a new group, add the members to this from my email account, and have that group set up. And then we've got folder permissions. So is it read, read, write? What type of information can we add or allow users to get into here? So there's no reason why you can't have different levels where some people can only view drawings, where other people are actually editing drawings, where you might then some document controllers that are actually adding and removing drawings at the same time. So this is used on big projects where we can start to add information to it. Even if you will, I can add in things like upload a file, add files. I'm going to go to our project sets, upload a set. So a set is, if you haven't played around it before, it's Bluebeam's document management system. So we're allowed to put one hyperlinking, if you will, folder to a series of drawings. It could be hundreds of drawings, it could be just 5 drawings, whatever you need. And it becomes your central document management system. So just allowing this to open up. If I don't double click it too many times. Oh, I lost my link. That's right. My bad. My real bad, actually. I can't just get the hyperlink and take it to it. I've got to bring up the entire folder. Now I have to click through these. I did have an example of this. Let me go through into here, just so I can show you properly. So this is a set, which I just quickly put up the hyperlink only, but it allows us to actually have a series of drawings that we can use to then hyperlink to each other. If I don't destroy my hyperlinks, the joy of not having a mouse. Tools, link, current set, select. Let me just zoom out. Wait a minute. Let me get to. This is going to be too hard for me without a mouse. See if the touch screen is going to help me. All right. So what I had intended to show you was a link, current set, select this page region. If you haven't seen this before, this is the extreme option. Okay, I just go link options. I'll just say I want to include a hyperlink. Generate. Just run it as it is. So right now it's finding all the drawing number locations of all the drawing sheets and finding any references on any other drawing sheet. So it creates a hyperlink. So when you have a section mark, it will actually then jump to the section mark for you. So instead of you have to personally navigate around the drawing set, it actually will make it much quicker and easier to use. And ultimately, I think that's where the software comes into play, that you just want it easier for all users. All right, so I just created 446 hyperlinks, removed my last ones that I didn't set up properly. So now I can go into things like finding these hyperlinks here. So I can try and find some thing that is, let's get a pen. From here, I can jump to a section mark here. I think I'll remove that hyperlink. No, back to here. So even this, our cells, I've seen we can start using sets inside Studio projects. So I want to show you something else now about Studio sessions. So inside Studio sessions, what we have there is the ability to lock something down completely. So let me just come across into our Studio. I'm just going to jump out of our Studio project here. I just want to open up, let me see, I'll go to a recent file. Actually, I'll go into one of these files here. So inside a Studio session, it can be used for collaboration, or you might use it for markups for other offices. It's multiple ways I've seen it being used as well. There's one developer in Sydney that would use it to receive all the drawings, and it'll go through a 5-part process in quoting and finding levels of risk and everything about that. So they set up a Studio session, and each person can go through these drawings at any one time. So what's important here in a Studio session, 500 people at once can be markup drawings. It's quite a lot of people, but the thing is, everyone can actually be doing the markups. It's not, check in and check out. So with that process, they're able to, make inquiries, or, a HVAC specialist can start pricing this, but they might have an issue for the person that might look after more the structural or the pore sequencing or so forth, and can start to ask each other questions inside the session. Another workflow that's used quite well, as I said earlier, is the infrastructure. So for them, they have design packages. So it might be a package of 10, or it could be even 80 drawings, and there could be somewhere between 5 or even 50 people reviewing these drawings, and each have their own, or these stakeholders have their different sort of backgrounds. It might be part of the public transport, it might be part of the actual road authority, it might be a government authority, it might be local government, then it'd be engineers and architects, then the mechanical, then it'll be project managers and the builder, and they all have a different stakeholder in how this is going to be built. So they're going to put the information onto the PDFs. So a really nice workflow I've spoken to some of our clients about is they'll issue the drawings on a Monday morning meeting. They say, this is the package for this week. They may sit there in the meeting room or their laptops starting to mark up these drawings, and then they can leave the meeting, and that minutes or the Studio session will stay open till, say, Thursday at 12 o'clock, when it will shut down, and then the package manager will review the markups and then take it to the staff. They'll either coordinate or do the engineering or the architecture or whatever is required to take that to the next step for another peer review the following week, and then they can close this down over a 2-week period. So the idea is there's no longer doing paper markups, coordinating paper markups. It's all just live then and there. One of the key things is when you're actually doing this is to enforce a certain standard with the people doing the markup. And there's a couple of areas we can do this. Unfortunately, well, Bluebeam doesn't force how your tool chest is set up inside a session. So what we recommend is for people to use the tools, attach a file, so you can actually get one of your markups. I can export this, and then from an export, I can then pick this up from my tools, markup, and get my attach, I just had on the screen, and get my attach and put it as a information that they can install onto their Bluebeam markup tools. Attach file, I'm sorry. And they'll do a little icon you can pick up on the screen. So nice little icon there. Let's just do a quick run through, why not? So if I do a standard, export, add to desktop, markup standards, all good. Tools, attach file, just go to my local file, my desktop, A2K, markup standards. And then we have in here a file that they can double click on, and that will then create a markup standard that you want to use. All right. Another thing as well is coming down to the markups. Now, if you haven't been using the markup tools, there's a lot of information you can start to put inside here. Now, typically the markups list comes with columns. So just think about this as your Excel spreadsheet. And if you are doing any peer review project work where it has to go into Excel, you can completely replicate what's in Excel inside here. We're not going to be doing lookup tables and VLOOKUP and indexing as such, but if you need a column about responsibility, we can set it up so we have who's responsible for what markup. Because you think about it, you could be looking at the architectural drawings and saying, well, the structural engineer needs to look at the size of this column because it's interrupting with the location of these objects. When I've done work on grade separation works in Melbourne for like the train lines, it was very particular rules we had to set out for the size of the platforms. And, if a column got too big, we had to realign the center of the columns because, by the time we pack it out with all the things that we need from the architect and put a bin in front of it or something, the pier was not wide enough. So these things have to be, documented. So to set up one of these responsibilities, what we can do is go into our columns, manage columns, custom columns, and then responsibility. Now just pay attention to this, because when I put this up into a studio session, you won't be able to see this custom column area. If I go into modify, you can see that basically the item is like a choice that you would see in Excel, and subject actually works like a master filter. So had this subject said, well, if I type in highlight, then only one architect project would actually work for highlight. Now, the reason why I chose responsible is because Bluebeam got several YouTubes about choice columns and responsible or responsibility. So you can look them up in your own time and see how this works to create your own choice columns. But you could do multiple options in here as well. If you need things about a specific date, I want to do a markup, and this, column location, as we were talking about before, has to be done by this date. So there's no date that Bluebeam will put automatically. It's a construction date or review date. If there's a certain number of values or text or just a tick marks, you can put that into play too. Another area to get into is the statuses. So if I go into a manage statuses here, Revu comes with a review and migration, but where I want to pick it up is in the customized one. So we can go to the add, create your own customized here, and then we can go inside this, we can create our own statuses inside that too. So if I go to the markup one, we can say it's a 1. I like to use alphanumerical to, yes, we can control it through up and down here, but I like to make it easier for the end user. So one is a markup. I'm going to change the color to red. If you want to do a back check, we can make it orange. So you can start to see where all the markups can start to change colors throughout the process. So we had one of our clients that have a resourcing center overseas. So theoretically, the peer review overseas, or it could just be interstate even, when they get the drawings back, they should all be purple unless there's a query about the markup. But it just allows for them to quickly see all those changes. I'll just quickly show you what that looks like visually. So if I actually go into a markup here, let's go to our zoom. Now if I go for my tool chest, I get one of our standard, let me put this across, A2K markup. And this is a markup that I want to see on the drawing. So I say center director, maybe I want to say it's a 156 is the room number. So if I just zoom in on that a bit further. So red would be, I've always used as, you want to see that on the drawing. Yes, probably not the bracket though, but I can now do a right click, go into my statuses, markup, say it's been back checked. It's going to go to orange. It doesn't stand out a lot. If I move through those processes, go to my set status, markup, it's been checked. Excuse me, statuses, set status, markup, and then a peer review. What's good about this, what I like about it is, yes, we can see visually on the screen, there's going to be more purple or whatever stages in what colors you want, but we can also see it inside here. And so if I have other markups on, and I say I want to look for all peer reviews, just like in Excel, we can do a master search. We have a master search here. So I have another markup inside here. If I just put just a general yellow highlighter, and this has no statuses, or maybe I'll just go in there and put a status of a markup back checked, and that's all it's had. I want to type in the peer review. This does not get highlighted. So if you want a quick check of where something is. So it's interesting when we look at things with infrastructure, their statuses, we also have different categories. So for them, it might be, it's a level 1 text issue. Number 2, it's a site clash. So it's not a hard clash. It might be a construction sequence clash. It might be like, well, we're going to have a crane here, or a temporary crane, or maybe there's going to be hoarding in this place, whatever. We can say it's a low-level issue. Might be an object query. Maybe an object needs to change. Maybe have some design issues. You want to, the reinforcement that's been used, the materials been used on the architecture. And then we have a site safety issue, so category 5. So what we've pointed out to our clients is you can start to use these different categories and isolate them and quickly highlight, oh, we have a category 4 and a 5. We need to hit this now, as opposed to finding out later on when their package is being reviewed, oh, by the way, you got a heap of these category 4s you need to attend to. Okay, so we have these all saved in place, all good to go. Let's have a look at having our studio session. Any questions at all about this part before I move on, about anything about the custom columns or statuses? And just in case, while someone wants to type in there, any markups that we do the drawings now will be locked down later on. So what's important for here is, I should point this out, custom columns, manage columns. When you do a custom column, what we want to do is, if I just do any sort of modifier, yep, okay. We want to save this to our profile. Yep, all saved, okay. Review, profiles, save profile now. So the reason we do this is the container ID I told you at the start. Just close this down. If we put any markup onto the screen, so even just this little tiny little orange dot, this markup invariably is connected to the markups list. And therefore, it would also updates the custom columns and the statuses and locks them down into that PDF. So that's the way Bluebeam works. You get a vanilla set of markup tools and custom columns, a vanilla PDF. And as soon as you put one markup on there, anything from that profile will actually go into the PDF itself. So you want to make sure that your PDF is showing all the right information before you take it up to a studio session. And the easiest way is just to get one markup. And for one client, we just made up a fake stamp. It just said issued to studio session, which basically meant that your custom columns and statuses have been embedded into this PDF, and they will work inside the studio session. All right, let's take it up there. Studio sessions. Let's open this up. New session. Demo session. So once again, it's going to send us to AWS, set up the protocol and all the standards in the background, and then send that information back to us, which we can then start to send out to other clients or other people inside our own company, whoever's collaboration. So at the moment I'm in here, and that's the name I set myself up when I first logged in. I can start to invite other people. So once again, I'll invite myself. And so if you have an issue with your address book, you can always copy that invitation and then paste it to your Outlook. Or you can go to your address book in here and start to find those people through your addresses. If you want to type in the messages, of course, to say, you know, welcome to this session. This is what package review number 1 or whatever you got requirement. So we can start to tie that in. I should point out groups is active here as well. So I can start getting to my groups, which I have no groups set up into my demo session here, but on my regular Bluebeam account, I do actually have quite a few groups I can attach to this. All right, email's been sent out and I just got a notification on my phone. So I could also attend this at the same time, but I've only got one set of hands, so I'll keep it easy for myself. So in here, I want to add a file. So we can go to our, see if I could close this one down. Add file to our session. There is a workflow from going studio projects and pushing it up into a session if you want. If I go to our desktop. And we go projects. I made a package. Inside studio sessions, we aren't able to put in sets as such, but a nice workflow that I do is just putting a combined package all together. So there's some really nice workflows within Bluebeam where we can combine drawings. We can keep the file name as the drawing index so that it all ties through so it's easy to find. And once you finish the files, you can then push them all apart and put them into an updated folder. So just while we're uploading, hope I didn't choose something that's going to take too long. Let's see if we can get into here. Get into our settings. So general settings. So we can put an expiry date on this. So I can say, well, I'm going to finish this up on the 17th is typically when we're going to close this up. But I'm going to say on the 18th, right? So on the 18th at 5 p.m. or 5:01, no one's getting into this file. Now, me, because I actually set up the file, I'll have full rights to will tell me the file's going to come down and I'll get a full report on the file. So next week, I'll talk about the reports. So today is just more about the setting up, how you collaborate and a bit of information. So the attendees, you got your second chance to go back in there, which attendees you're inviting. You can go to here as well. And then once again, different permissions, what they can and can't do. And you can go into having your groups there at different levels as well. So that ties in nicely for document controllers, people doing peer review, and people just having a look at the drawings for general knowledge that they can't actually do any markups if that's what you need. Okay, a package is set up. We're opening this up. We're now inside the studio session. I do not need to check this in and check it out because that has already been done. And now any markups I do here will turn up inside the space. Zoom in on here. That's my markup. Probably should try and spell better. Size, nice. Okay, so all markups are going to go into this space here. Now, one thing I want to point out, if I go to any other markups inside here, let me try. They are grayed out. So in actual fact, I made these markups another time and loaded them up. I cannot change these. So where this comes into play is if I invite any one of you guys attending here now, we can do a markup or you can do your own markup and I cannot edit this. So all we can do in response to this is say, well, move this room. Okay, so where is this markup? Fine, fair enough. I can say on the back of this, I'm going to do a right click, reply. We have, we can't move this. To site issues. So the intention here is we're starting to get a whole swag of information about the markups and everything underneath it. So we highly recommend inside a studio session, do not put comments next to this because as far as data stacking up, it won't work. You want to create your replies to this and see where it tracks the information. And in the perfect scenario, which can happen, you want to resolve it within the studio session. So it's not the case of someone mark this up like you would in paper, send it to somebody else to say, actually, it's not so much of an issue, or here's how we fix it, and send it back and forth, back and forth. Let's do this in a digital environment. So from that too, we could always do a markup here, and we could, had I invited other people to this, you'd see alert attendees, and I could then select which attendees I want to alert. So this is even a workflow I've used for using Bluebeam review workshops, where we give a tailored advice about how they can improve their use of review. And the clients always want to challenge us back and ask questions and more information about it. So I set up in a studio session. It just works out so much easier than individual emails a bit random, where studio session works better. The good news is if I'm actually out of a session, it will actually send me a notification to my Outlook, and my Outlook will say, you know, Shanok, you have an email from a particular person. And when I go into there, I say this one here, we'll do a zoom in to that exact area. So it could be a 60-page document, and here's a question for you to answer, which I can then do into reply and then answer on the spot. I told you about the columns. I said, just pay attention to when we get back into here. I can't do any custom columns in here. What's happened is my responsibility A2K custom column has embedded itself into the PDF and locked it down. So you really need to make sure that you create that workflow first. That's the same with the statuses here. I actually I'm clicking on it, and before I could edit my statuses, they're locked down. So now I've got the opportunity inside here to use these different types of statuses. So it's from a data collection point of view, and really have a think about this downstream. You can start to isolate all the different actions that are required, or action or no action, and the different packages levels as well, or category levels. So it's really quite important for those high level information, even if it just statuses are simply query is sent back to whoever made the markup because I don't understand it if it's more of an internal workflow. The only options we really have inside here is to turn custom columns off. So I made this custom column for UB size, but I actually don't need to display that. Something to also be aware of, you can use spaces inside Studio Sessions as well. If you haven't used spaces, if you're using Revit, Revit will generate rooms, and rooms become spaces. So these here, I maximize out. These here are different areas. So I've actually color-coded these spaces so they're easier to understand. So that might be part of a construction sequence or maybe time frame. So you can start to say, well, I've got maybe the fit out of this room and it's within stage 1. So we can start to isolate in Excel how you want to break down that information. Right. Let's see. So in the following week, we're going to go through extracting more data out of this and what reports we can get out of this. And if you want me to, jump back on to about any coordination, I'm going to get an extra hand on this to put a bit more detail into this. I do want to point out some of the information we do have. If you're on site, you can actually start, I've used an iPad on here. It's a very simple interface. You're not going to get as much buttons and options as the full PC version, but you can start to do your own markups. So there is definitely construction companies and subbies and so forth that are using this for this like site report. Have they finished installing this sink, or is there an issue, for a defects list? And this one was a bit of an issue the other day. Oh, I did all right. An installation of a door. So why not put some more information into this? You can embed this into the PDF. I told you it's about data, right, or a container. So I want to put that container into it, the information into the container, I'm sorry. And here is our 360. So one of our clients, a precast company, they're talking about going to Bluebeam for site construction. So they can start saying, well, this panel was up on site. I had these issues with these dowel bars. These are the variations I had on site. And also, this is when I finished it. And I know this is an in-situ world, could be block work from what I can tell here. But they've got a finished piece. So they can, a picture is 1,000 words. And if 1,000 words saves you from being, reducing the litigation, well, that's just fantastic. All right. Before I get out of the session, actually, I will say this. We'll do a leave session here. So I'm not going to close it entirely. I'm just going to leave it. And that will close that down. I can get back into there at any time. So go back into my demo session. So that's the full idea of this. We can actually just get in and out as required, add more content, more information. Okay, so just wrapping up now. With everything we do at Cloud AI2K, we really want to push our customers to actually know the product better. As I think back to my time as a CAD manager, it's, using the tool, the purchasing the tool is one thing, but using the tool is another, and that's where the huge time saving comes into it. And just you want, better productivity out of this. And Bluebeam, there's just a lot of, honestly, low-hanging fruit. So even some things like, using overlays, I think a lot of our clients actually know about that now, but still once in a while people are like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do this. I was even a woman the other week that was smashing the office really good, and I was happy to always teach one more new trick and said, oh, have you tried the batch overlays at least? No, I haven't. So hopefully speed up some processes. So we have a whole range of ideas of training, because what we found out is one option doesn't suit all. So we go into our Review Basics here on the left, which is our standard Bluebeam course. It's a prescribed course from Bluebeam themselves. We'll do our workshops where we can investigate how you're actually using Bluebeam and how you could be using it better. I quite like these because it's almost like a line of sand of how much we know and how much you know, and it's very transparent, and then you can sort of judge us for our knowledge and think, well, this is worth engaging, or, well, you know what, we know as much as them, we don't need to take any further. Typically, though, we find there's always room for improvement. Rapid starts, if you just want to smash out one day of trying to learn as much as you can. And then we step into the next level of integration, where it's setting up to your office standards, giving you something. So day 1, standardization, day 2, training, day 3, just start using it. It's ready to go. And then lastly, we've got our Blue Bursts, which is, it's going on pretty well actually, because it's 1.5 hour training sessions. It's highly technical. This presentation here is technical enough, but this is more of a hands-on learning over the web, or could be in the office. 1 hour of tech time, then half an hour just pure questions. And the idea is just people are struggling for time. Even getting out to a half-day class is a stretch. So we set up to mini 1.5 hour classes. And I said I don't like doing too many. I'm more of a tech guy. I don't like doing too much PowerPoint. So if there's any questions, and I thought I'll checkily leave up that beer there. So just as a reminder of the Sydney microbrewing event, it is some time away if you're in Sydney, the 5th of May. But from all accounts and responses that we got from the Brisbane one, it's definitely worth attending. All right, give you a chance if anyone's got any questions, but otherwise I thank you for your time, for coming along. I know it's actually not too easy to make time in a day. There's always deadlines to get to, another email, or I'd just like to have my lunch break in peace. So I really appreciate that. I'll just give anyone a few more minutes, and then we'll call it wraps for the day. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to leave it as there. Thanks for your time, guys. I hope I'll see for the second half next week, closing up a session, getting reports, and also getting some data out of these reports as well. Okay, take care. See ya.